Good morning, comrades. You are listening to WHIV-LP New Orleans 102.3. This is Good Morning, Comrade. We have Jeff and Robert on the show. Robert, how you been, bro? Haven't talked to you in a little bit.
All right. Let's see. Things are going on. Walgreens was out of my meds, so I've gone like 4 days off of like my SSRIs, which is not cool because if you've ever been like stoned or like slightly buzzed, like that's what it feels like when you're getting, what's known as the brain zaps. And you're just kind of like, it's just annoying enough to be like, oh, I'm just tired, or like, what's wrong with me? And then you're really like, oh, that's right, I haven't taken my Zoloft in like almost a week now, and that's why I just feel absolutely off. I'm gonna go refill my prescription as soon as we get done with this, because the pharmacy's open till 10 Central, so that's good. Yesterday, I called in sick to work so I could go to Mississippi and watch the Mississippi Aquarium release sea turtles back into the ocean.
Oh, what? No way. Word?
That was a better use of my time than answering phone calls and doing TPS reports. So I was happy I did that. Turned that into a whole beach day where I went to not even a beach day. Went to the Hard Rock Hotel and got some food and then just got the day pass for the pool. And just coming face to face with global warming, it's absolutely crazy. Since we were kids, Jeff, I remember the first thing being in elementary school and having chapters in our earth science book about the ozone layer, about ozone depletion, and being like, well, that sucks. And it just feels so weird to come face to face with it now as a 42-year-old person here on Earth.
Well,
apparently, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess Man Bear Pig was real. And I know the South Park boys made an episode where it was a big mea culpa, I'm sorry, but still they're kind of try hard jerk offs.
They're edgelords.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, I'm too cool for everything, and that's why we're gonna make fun of global warming. But as I'm sitting by the Hard Rock pool, feeling that drinking half a beer and feeling like I'm gonna have heat stroke at any second, and as I get into the water, and the water is literally as hot as a cool jacuzzi, I'm like, this boiling. Is really bad. Yeah, I'm like, I can't be outside for any amount of time, and I can't imagine people thank God I have a job where I don't have to be outside anymore. I don't know how anybody's dealing. I really don't, and it's only going to get worse from here. This is the new normal. The hottest day recorded on Earth seems like every day, and this is going to be the new normal until technology figures something out. Are we just in the Earth as we know it? Because you read you listen to the climate scientists, and they're like, yeah, that 1 to 2 degrees that we're feeling right now, it's irreversible.
Yeah,
and it just feels absolutely dystopian. Every day, it just feels like a new dystopian, fresh hell.
This is something that speaks to something that Obama talked about last week, where he was saying that I have to pull it up, but it was essentially one of his daughters came up to him and said well, we don't know what to do about global warming. Feels like there's nothing that could ever be done. Why didn't you do something specifically about this? And
oh,
Obama,
really? Malia came? Wow.
It wasn't exactly. I'm going to find the clip, but it was one of those sorts of deals where that's the actual dynamic, because it's actually her dad who literally did nothing about actually changing global warming, and that's sort of an implication here. And Obama did the usual Obama thing where he just well, sometimes you have to just make compromises to make sure that we're in a better world, and so that essentially like negotiating with like tens of millions of lives, like
Yeah.
saying that like, well, you know what, instead of and this is not exactly what he said, but this is the sort of short of it, is that like, well, instead of like losing 100 million lives, maybe we can save about half of those, like that kind of stuff, like the classic Democrat just like split the baby sort of deal. I have to find that. I was like, when I see this, I'm like losing my mind. Let me find it.
I just feel like, wow, like here we are at the end of all things. It's like this feels insane. Like I've never felt like so dystopian as in focus as just when you go outside at midnight to let your dog out. It's as hot as it was during the daytime.
Oh man,
it absolutely. I'm like, this isn't right.
Yeah,
this is very wrong. And I don't think people are taking it serious enough because it's kind of like the frog boiling in the pot, like you just.
Well, the difference between the frog boiling in the pot and like what's happening to us right now is the frog has enough common sense to actually jump out of it. Like that has actually been tested, and it's not really true. Yeah. The frog doesn't actually sit in the pot and let itself get boiled. we do. Humans do.
Yeah, we do. We
anyway.
Absolutely do.
Yeah, it's one of those really like frustrating things, and like if like we somehow are able to assemble Voltron in the last Deus Ex Machina moment, like there's going to be so much significant irreversible damage that is done to the Earth that we could never ever undo it. That I don't know. It's just like one of these like situations. It's like, why bother? Like it's really hard to not go nihilist on that sort of thing. And like you mentioned a moment ago, that the heat and what do people do? There's more heat related fatalities this year than there's been in decades. Like that's what people are doing. They're freaking dying.
They're dying. Yeah. Until capitalism finds a way to to monetize to us all inside the cooling dome or whatever, because that's the plan, is that the global south is probably going to be gone in the next 50 years. Like it'll be uninhabitable and everybody will be pushed into some kind of weird, I've said dystopian 5 times already, but I just can't, some kind of weird like Judge Dredd megacity that has like, you can rent like a time in a cooling dome or something stupid like that. And that sounds hyperbolic and ridiculous, but like it's really not, because that's really the bet that these capitalists have taken.
We're gonna have to live in the Jetsons world where you have like people just living in bubbles, like up far above the land in like on lifted platforms, because have you ever think about what lies below in the Jetsons? You know what I mean? It's probably
that's
just like
true.
a bunch, either like it's all water
world.
or it's just like a completely destroyed planet.
I've never thought of that. I'm not even joking.
Yeah,
like that'd be an amazing, like Hanna-Barbera, like Turner would never.
They went dark like that.
That would be amazing. Yeah, like that's how you reboot the Jetsons.
But it's like the dark, gritty reboot of the Jetsons.
I mean, it could work. I could see it. Actually, let me take that back. It could work. It would be an Adult Swim show, like on
like Sea Lab or whatever.
Yeah. Or like Space Ghost. And that's exactly how you would do it. It's just like the pre-Jetsons era. Like what was George and I can't remember his wife's name. Like what were they doing before the cataclysm?
Yeah.
That would be good, dude.
I mean, at least in the Jetsons, though, like the idea of work is like one dude like sitting in a chair, like pressing the same button over again for the rest. Actually, no, that's pretty dark too, because that is a little bit kind of too close to real life as well. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's
like you
kind
still
of
have to work to do a meaningless job, like capitalism.
And I love
it.
Like I have a fake job, and I love it.
Yeah,
love it. Love my fake job, but it is a it is a fake job. Like I could drop dead tomorrow, and everything's going to be fine. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, we have people who work real jobs who are suffering right now. And then those of us who work fake jobs, like, like my wife, Erin, is a social worker. She has to go out and literally talk people down off of ledges. And that can't be fun to do when it feels like 108 outside.
Yeah. Farm workers.
That's just one more thing.
farm workers are dying extremely, like in like very, very like terrible numbers right now too, because they literally sit outside and they pick all of the food. They reap all of the crops that you eat, you know, and they're paid. I mean, most of them don't have status in this country, and I'd have to get somebody to talk about this on the show. But this actually would be a really interesting topic to discuss. But like, just these heat waves are killing people, and it's, you know, and again at the same time, you know, what do you see on, if you turn on television, is that like, oh, we have a country music singer who's upset because he's getting canceled because he wrote a song that is not about lynching. I promise it's not about lynching, but if you listen to it, it's totally about lynching.
Totally is. But the thing is about that, it's because it's like everything else. It's like, you know, drug use or illicit drug use in this country or anything else that first affects the marginalized and the poor and the working class and then filters up.
Yeah.
It's not, this heat wave is not killing the right people yet.
Yeah.
As soon as it starts killing the right people, then it'll be a major, oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is that the sort of way that we have our society structured, that these people, the wealthy, and I mean, we're not dying out in the heat, you and me. We're not necessarily included in this. We just happen to care about it, and you know, we associate ourselves more with the working class people that are getting this thrown against that are essentially the cannon fodder in the sort of war on the planet, essentially. But like, you know, the fact that like there is a necessarily amount of insulation that working people, I mean, that the ruling class has from these realities, and you know, just, like Ron Perlman said, you know, there's a lot of ways that your house could burn down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Oh my god!
Of course I did.
Good way to pivot to I guess some of the strikes that are happening. So, first off, the Writers Guild of America has been on strike for probably about 3 months now. We definitely discussed this at some point in the past couple of months on the show, but also about 2 weeks ago, the Screen Actors Guild went on strike as well.
And they've been striking for that long? For 2 weeks?
It's a week or two. I mean, it's the second week. Let's say that. Okay. And one of the things that kind of leaked out, this was like fairly, you know, public-ish information, was that one of the executives that were involved in the negotiations, one of the, you know, company, you know, one of these motion picture, you know, company CEOs, likely Bob Iger, said essentially that the strategy,
one of these vultures,
Disney, well, your boy, right?
Not my boy. He's not in the creative side of the business.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
I know what you mean.
But no, but he like came out and essentially said, you know, not necessarily like, he didn't put his name on it because he's a coward, but essentially said that that the strategy was to not even begin negotiating with the union until October. And the reason for that would be that some of not all actors are rich. You know who the rich and famous ones are. Almost all of the other ones that you don't know of are like working class people who probably make less money than you do like acting as gig work at that level. And essentially what they said was, we're going to starve them out and they'll start losing their homes, and you know, they won't be able, they'll be in a much worse negotiating position. And they'll start losing their houses and things like that. And then we'll really be able to get, you know, stick it to them essentially. And Ron Perlman, who's a fantastic actor, by the way, Hellboy himself.
City of Lost Children.
Yeah, there you go.
He's the best part of Alien Resurrection, which is
not a great movie.
I won't call it bad. I'll call it, anybody who knows that director, like, and that he directed City of Lost Children, I love City of Lost Children growing up, and then when I forget his name, the director, he's a French guy, but as soon as it was like, oh, this movie is coming out, like Alien Resurrection, and it's directed by him, and it's starring Ron Perlman, like I'm sure, not to toot my own horn, but like I'm one of the few people that's like, oh, I know exactly what this is gonna be. It's gonna be so weird. It's gonna be so out there and weird, and it was. And so I wasn't like, I was like, yeah, it's fine. But I can understand how like people like normies would be like, what on earth?
Yeah.
Like this is such a weird Hollywood tentpole thing. That's so weird.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Ron Perlman, this actor, very successful character actor. You know, he's been around in the business for decades. He did an Instagram live when he basically said, "Listen, MFer, whoever said that, like, there's more than one way to lose your house." And he basically did like it's a nice house you got there. Be shame if something happened to it, kind of like.
Yeah, it was
so
pretty
cool.
amazing. And like the thing about that, so from a guy like that, I completely expect it. The thing that's surprising me the most about this strike, and I haven't seen it in other strikes as far as like the things I can think of that always make news. Teacher strikes are like UPS or FedEx workers. Is that the normies, like, just the people online, not in our circles either that we run with, not in the
not the people that you would expect.
What's the word
to be
I'm
on
looking
side.
for? Yeah, the people you expected from the kind of the bubble, the media bubble that we're in. No, these are just like normies being like right on. Like I hate I hope that the studios break. These people deserve all the money because they're the ones that are actually creating entertainment. Studio execs do nothing. I mean, and I'm just like shocked that that people, like working people, are connecting so much to not just the Writers Guild, but the Actors Guild as workers, as fellow workers. And it's like it's a really good surprise. It's like the hardest pushback that I've seen like online is people saying, well, movies suck anyway. I'm so tired of all these terrible movies.
It ain't the actor's fault.
And I'm just like, yeah. And they're like, oh, so let them rot. Who cares? Like, we need less of these garbage sequels anyway. And I'm like,
that's the studio.
Well, I'm just like, my dude, do you think that these writers are just like, they've got a script and they're just like, you better greenlight this or else?
Yeah.
Or is it the idea of the executive saying, we're going to make Transformers Part 87. You can either give us a script or I'll find somebody who will. Yeah. And the first thing I think of that sounds hyperbolic, but it's not, because
no, that's what's happening.
If you remember,
is.
Exactly. If you remember last year, everybody was complaining about how bad the Matrix movie was, the new Matrix movie, but they didn't understand that it was bad on purpose, and not like bad in an Ed Wood or a what's the guy from Chalmette, man? The Room guy.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter, but you can see his face. But it's not like that movie wasn't bad in an Ed Wood way. Like, it was purposely bad because Lana Wachowski was literally given that ultimatum by Warner Brothers.
Make this movie.
They're like, you will write and direct this, or we'll find somebody who will, and we don't care what comes out of it. So the whole movie is like a meta hostage letter.
Tommy Wiseau.
It's a Tommy Wiseau. Thank you. It's a movie made under duress, and that's why it's so bad.
Yeah, and that's why every Marvel movie's terrible.
Yes.
All these, everything that's coming out right now, except, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be different with like this Barbie movie or with this Oppenheimer movie or whatever. But I mean, there's going to be some gems in there regardless. But like you just kind of fall into it because actually writers do have the ability to make even turn the chicken, S into chicken salad sometimes. Yeah. But you're not really given a lot of creative premise when everything is essentially associated to something else that's licensed.
Yeah, it's they're workers, and the only reason, you don't even have to talk about working actors and people who are doing gig work, which is the majority of of screen actors. Yeah. But we can talk about a Tom Cruise. We can talk about a Ryan Gosling in the new Barbie movie and just be like, yeah, the reason why they're able to Yeah, the reason why they're able to make $100 million off of this one movie is because the executives are making 10 times that.
Exactly. That's
Whatever
exactly
number
right.
you want to throw out, and those people are creating no value. There, Bob Iger could fall off the face of the earth tonight, and then
Nobody
the
would
Disney
care.
company will run. The creative side will run. It will probably run better because if you like think about your jobs, people who are listening to this, think about your jobs, and your manager at one time is called in sick, and if no manager shows up. Do you notice that the store actually runs better?
Yeah.
It does. So.
And then
that.
there are
Um,
ways
yeah.
that you can help out, especially if you're listening right now. Who's been really good about getting information about this out is Adam Conover. Adam
rules,
Conover
dude.
Adam ruins everything except for like this strike because, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with him. I assume that most of you are, but he's a writer and a actor. He did Adam Ruins Everything and all these other things, but he has been doing actually very good YouTube videos, TikToks, Twitter videos talking about how you can help. So check him out on Twitter, on TikTok, on whatever, Instagram. But essentially the things that you can do to support are, one, don't promote any of these sort of any films or television shows that are being struck by the Screen Actors Guild or
Tell all your TikTok influencer friends that we all have.
Yeah.
That hey buddy, I know you're in Ibiza right now, so you probably haven't seen this, but yeah, could you please not promote the Oppenheimer movie on your TikTok thread? That'd be
Correct.
Great. Thanks.
And also, the another thing that you can do is actually donate to striking writers
Oh, really?
and striking actors. So there are definitely ways to do that. Check out Adam Conover's Twitter account. It's at Adam Conover, and you can get more information about how to help people out. And this is all coming. And this is, by the way, I don't want to like overstate it, but this is one of the largest like private sector like strikes that has ever taken place in this country. And honestly, the last time the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild both went on strike, guess who the leader of the Screen Actors Guild was at the time?
I already know, but I don't want to steal
One of the worst
thunder.
union busters in the history of this country.
Absolutely.
Ronald Reagan. And they got residuals out of that.
And it was because of cable, right? Cable was just going to take off?
Which is essentially the equivalent in this situation. I don't know if it was, I'm going to have to check myself on that. But that would be the sort of corollary in this sort of situation to online streaming platforms, because what one of the arguments that the studio executives are making is essentially that while they're making money hand over fist on your Peacocks and your Hulus and your Netflixes and your Maxes and all these other like million different streaming services that they're essentially saying the executives are that like, oh, actually these are very unstable and we don't know, so we can't really pay residuals on that, which is
it's
completely
work.
bogus.
It doesn't matter. What do you mean you can't? It's work.
Yeah.
Even if that's true, it doesn't matter. Like these people are not unless you've got one of those weird Disney, like I work for ABC, so that means I'm on, I work for Disney, that means I'm on ABC and ESPN, like that whole thing, like an old Hollywood studio. Like these people aren't working under those type of contracts. So it's like, I don't care if you, as a worker, I don't care if you're telling me this isn't like stable or whatever. What I know is I did work, and you're making money off my work every time somebody clicks that mouse or that Fire Stick remote or whatever. So it's like, I don't want to hear it. If this is too much for you, then you need to get out of the game.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as people saying, oh, I can't afford to to give benefits to my employees. Then you can't be in business.
Right.
Like that's what it is. What it is.
Yeah.
At that point. But I am just so shocked. Again, I can't really
pleasantly surprised
overstate how, just surprised I am that so many working people have connected with this sector, which I feel it would be so easy just for propaganda to turn on them and be like, oh, these rich, I haven't seen this in my lifetime from people who, I don't want to say work harder, but do manual labor. Yeah, what pops into my mind is, I've seen in my lifetime a couple UPS strikes, and it didn't get this type of reception. Where definitely from the public, and it definitely should have. So, I mean, you're the labor guy. Like, why do you think that is? I really don't know.
I think part of the answer to this, and you mentioned UPS, and we'll get to them in a minute. But part of the reason I think is because, one, people feel like they have less power in their jobs than they've ever had in their entire lifetimes, and that's reflected in sort of wages and benefits have been slowly on the decline since the 1970s when compared to productivity. The costs of housing and the cost of everything has increased over that time. So people are working harder than they ever have and getting less for it. And that, while also at the same time we have more avenues for communication that we've ever had before, even if they're terrible and run by Elon Musk or whatever, at least there's a way that you can, if you have enough people cannon blasting, information and putting forward these conditions for solidarity. That's the right. I mean, it's overwhelming. And it's actually changed a lot of these the landscape for these sorts of situations, so that workers are essentially able to take the offensive and actually stand up for themselves and actually demand the things that they need for their lives, because they're the relation between capital and labor is that labor exploits capital. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming fairly evident, at least in this period right now, and it's something that might be fleeting. It might be temporary. But it's something that's definitely there's something happening here that, people are relating more with their coworkers and their comrades than with their bosses. And that's a good thing.
Do you think that, I'm going to put my cynical hat on for a sec. Mm-hmm. Do you think, because I started thinking about when you said technology, why? Because obviously the studios did not expect this. They expected, the way they were talking, they expected everybody to just be like, "Oh, just you rich people, get back over and make my movies,
get back to work."
But but do you think it's because because of technology, we haven't had access to celebrities like this before, and now there's a little parasocial relationship thing going to where people are like, oh, I can really I can relate to this person, even though it's Margot Robbie and she doesn't look like me. She lives a life that's completely different from me, but because I have this unfettered access to them, I feel connected to them in a way I wouldn't have even a decade ago.
I'm sure that's part of it. But I don't think it's the main thing. I mean, we're also in a situation where we're seeing we have probably one of the dumbest ruling elites that we've ever had in our entire lifetimes at the same time, where people like Elon Musk decides that he's going to run a space program or whatever, and if one of his rockets gets blasted off into space and it explodes, which happened, and he sort of feels like, oh, we can just say that we meant to do that and call it instantaneous sort of dismantlement or whatever that they called that or whatever, and think that people are stupid enough to fall for it. People realize that, they notice it, and they're like, yeah, the people that run this world are actually not only huge, complete friggin' idiots, but they're also they think I'm stupid, and I can be fine with them being idiots. But if they think I'm stupid, I take I have a problem with that.
It just feels like the working class, people who aren't rich, and who are workers, they're over rich people. We're over it. We don't care. Let them all go. Let them all take a trip to the Titanic. But
we didn't even talk about that.
They're able to suss out the nuance of the the 1% of Hollywood actors who are ridiculously rich are still workers and they're still being exploited. I've never seen nuance been accepted like this by like the American mass public in my lifetime. I can't think of really anything else. And I'm just pleasantly just like, wow, y'all are really for the most part right on this one. And the people who are wrong are being shouted down, being like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm just impressed.
Yeah, totally. And it's a great thing. And you mentioned we can move on. Let's pause for station ID. You're listening to WHFVLP New Orleans 102.3's Good Morning Comrade. We are also on the precipice, while we also have this, like, one of the largest strikes in the history of this country taking place, you know, with the screen actors and the writers kind of combined together. We're also on the precipice of a new strike with the UPS workers across the country. And this is another one of those sort of situations where, you know, historically you might have thought that, well, there's already a tentative agreement with the full-time workers at UPS to increase their wages, and they get paid like full-time drivers get paid fairly well. The problem is that so many UPS drivers they have what's called a two-tier system, where they have so many part-time workers who work weird, wacky hours. They don't get paid. They don't have the same benefits. They don't have any of the same stuff. So, like, when people will point at UPS drivers and say, "Oh, they make $40 whatever an hour," which is like, hey, that's good on them, I say.
Yeah, good on them.
That is not every UPS worker that's getting that. And the Teamsters have been fighting to get rid of this two-tier dynamic and make it so that essentially that the workers that, you know, the part-time workers get at least the same level of benefits. It's great. And if you look actually at so in the past couple of weeks, there have been, you know, sort of practice strikes that the UPS Teamsters, UPS workers have been engaging in. And, I mean, they're one to make sure that they know how to do the strike stuff, which is extremely important. But also they've had not just extremely like high participation from members, but they've also been shown from community allies and other people on these practice picket lines, mind you, support from allies. So it's not just the workers, the Teamsters, the UPS workers who are out there fighting for their lives, but the people are on their side and they're showing up. And that's incredible. And it's so much. It's been so effective to the point that UPS had sort of ceased negotiations. I think last month. They actually, it was either yesterday or the night before, as of recording, said they intend to return to the bargaining table and get back to business, because I think that they're feeling that these workers aren't going to break, and they're right, actually.
Wow, it's just my brain is so broken that I don't know how to take a win. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I'm just like, what? Like, y'all are striking, and people are like, great, let's go. Like, they're not like, oh, you know, you get paid $40 an hour, or oh, you're Adam Conover and you've got a
television
show
shows or whatever.
And or you're Fran Drescher and you've got all you just want to protect your nanny residuals or whatever garbage they try to throw out to try to pit worker against worker, and like people just aren't having it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, let's go.
Here's the release from the essentially announcing that this is what the situation is from the Teamsters. UPS bows to Teamster pressure. Negotiations to resume next week. Bargaining for contract 340,000 Teamsters to continue current agreement expires July 31st. Washington. As thousands of UPS Teamsters practice picket, rally, and mobilize around the country, UPS bowed today to the overwhelming show of Teamster unity and reached out to the union to resume negotiations. The Teamsters National Negotiating Committee and the company will set dates soon to resume negotiations next week. Teamsters' agreement with UPS is the largest private sector union contract in North America. UPS Teamsters are demanding the strongest possible contract or are prepared to strike. with rank and file members authorizing a strike by 97%. And this happened months ago. Over 340,000 UPS Teamster delivery and workhouse logistics workers nationwide are fighting for a new 5-year agreement that guarantees better pay for all workers, eliminates the 2-tier wage, 22.4 job classification. That's what they call the second tier of workers. Increases the number of full-time jobs, addresses safety and health concerns around heat illness. And the reason for that is up until these negotiations, actually, UPS drivers did not have air conditioning units in their vehicles.
What? No way.
And it's still the case. Also, I believe for USPS, but I could be wrong about that. I would definitely double check on it. The release continues and provides stronger protections against managerial harassment. That's present in every job. UPS made more than $100 billion last year alone. And it just goes to talk about where you can find more information about the Teamsters, Teamster.org, Facebook.com/Teamsters. So yeah, they're out there, they're fighting, and they're gonna get some. They're not gonna give up. They're getting rid of 2-tier. At least that's what the demand is.
I mean, it makes total sense from the the capitalist point of view of why you want to keep that in place, because it's just a great way. One, you have something to dangle over your workers, to manipulate them the way you want, and then you can also pit worker against worker.
Yep.
Even on the job site. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great like union busting tactic, really. Be like, because if the full-time workers ever decide, hey, like, we're being treated unfairly and we deserve more of the value we create, and they'll be like, oh, do you now? Guess what? I got this whole army of part-time guys who would love to have your spot.
And also, the reason that you're in the position that you currently have is because you didn't work hard enough. Look at all of them. They worked hard enough and they have it. It's like a combination of the Protestant ethos and also the stick.
Right. No, yeah, and unions like the Teamsters understand that's why they have to fight for the quote unquote, like, weakest link, the proverbial weakest link in the chain, because they understand if you let that link remain weak, the capitalists will just use that against you, and they'll turn those people on you.
Yeah, chain is only as strong as its weakest link, right? That's like the line.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it should work. And that's how it's working in this case. It just doesn't feel real when you're old and grizzled like me.
Well, I will say that, I mean, none of this is won yet. This is the fight beginning. And again, this is also like, when the industry, so if UPS gets a really good contract, that sets the standard for even FedEx, which is non-union.
Absolutely. I didn't know that. Dang.
FedEx is non-union, and also it also provides a potentially like a reasoning. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily going to happen this way, but it also could provide openings to organize FedEx if they don't get what the standard that the Teamsters are demanding is. So like FedEx basically stands like FedEx is a company, and the workers at FedEx are definitely keeping their eyes on this, and that the FedEx corporate management is definitely putting their thumb on the scale in any way that they can.
I mean, I've told you this story before about living in Southern Ohio in Cincinnati, and like my uncles work for the Ford plant. They work for Ford and GE, and Ford plant is still a good union job there. And across the river in Kentucky, there is a Toyota plant, and I've talked to those Toyota workers, and they're quick to tell you how great it is and how much they don't need a union. And it's like, no, the reason why you telling me you don't need a union is because Ford is across the river, and they know that puts pressure on them to be at least as good as Ford, or you'll just go over there.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's why a rising tide in this instance, a rising tide really does raise all boats.
Yeah, because it's actually a tide.
Yep,
it's actually a rising tide.
Absolutely. But man, so they're striking, SAG-AFTRA striking. I feel like I'm missing out on somebody else. Is there a teacher strike going on? I feel like I'm missing a strike.
No, I mean those are the big ones right now. that are like really kind of permeating. There are also other campaigns, like giant janitors contracts up and down the East Coast that are coming up. There's actions that's taking place at airports across the country. I know that certain Sodexo workers with Unite Here are sort of having actions and having opportunity to organize. I don't want to speak too freely about that because it's not something that I'm like necessarily that knowledgeable about at this moment. But there's definitely a lot of action taking place. Oh yeah, a couple of weeks ago there were nurses on strike in Texas and Kansas striking for a first contract. Like if you dig into it, you'll see that workers are popping off. This is definitely Solidarity Summer.
Popping off. Solidarity. I like that. Did you coin that? Is that
no? That's
is that messaging you're working on?
No. It's actually some stuff that I am using for work because, but I didn't coin it.
I need a tie-dye shirt. This is Solidarity Summer.
There you go.
Summer of Solidarity.
Yeah. But it's
super dope.
Yeah, man. But that's sort of what's going on. With the unions and with the, I mean, it's obviously not all of it, but that's sort of the grand scheme of it, the landscape of it, and it is. I mean, I don't want to. It is like there's a lot going on, and workers are standing up and fighting for themselves, and it's incredible.
Right. So, I mean, and these are like all legit questions. Like,
Sure.
It's not rhetorical. So, with the Hollywood strike with SAG-AFTRA, like, how can they make? I mean, I know there's no new production, but like, how can they make by withholding new production? Like, that doesn't actively make the studios bleed. Like at that moment, it does, right? It does. How?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're not going to have anything.
For real, I don't know.
They're not going to have anything new coming out if this lasts until around Christmas or so. There's not going to be any new movies or television or films coming out. Like obviously there's a certain kind of backlog of stuff.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, there's a certain backlog of stuff, but once that's gone, they got no content. They got, it's all stuff that nothing's fresh anymore. Everything is just like already being, and that's not gonna stand.
Right. I
unless they have Scab, like they make Scab productions, and that's, I mean, hopefully we get back to the, I mean, throwing tomatoes and stuff,
Yeah, we'll not be watching any Scab movies or streaming.
Yeah.
Programming. That's
this is important, and I think that if people are listening and people are like, "Oh, I'm going to cancel Netflix or Hulu or whatever," there's actually an ask from the Screen Actors Guild and I believe also the Writers Guild to not do that. Don't behave any differently than you normally would. There's no call for a consumer boycott, and the reason for that, and it's actually a really important reason and a smart flag by these groups. They like part of the argument that the studios are making is that streaming platforms are tumultuous as a revenue stream and for bringing in money. So if you like decide I'm going to change my behavior right now and cancel all these streaming services, you're actually making the boss's argument for them. That make sense?
Not really.
So part of the argument,
it doesn't make sense at all to me.
Actually. The argument that the bosses are making right now is that we can't give you residuals on streaming platforms, right? That's what they're saying, and the reason that we can't do it is because it's not a reliable stream of revenue. So essentially, like, people are quitting them way too often and all this other stuff, and we can't really predict what our quarterly numbers are going to be. So if there's a concerted move towards dropping all of your streaming services right now, you're actually going to prove them right in this moment.
Oh, I see that it's not sustainable as a thing. So that way they shouldn't pay them. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you see.
Got it.
And so with the workers, with the with SAG-AFTRA and the Screen Actors Guild want is they want those residuals, and you can actually backfire the situation. And I probably didn't articulate it perfectly here. If somebody wants to correct me on the particulars of it, but that's sort of like the broad strokes. But like, don't change your behavior on streaming platforms right now. There's no ask for that. There's no ask for a consumer boycott at this point. If there is, we'll let you know, and they will too.
Yeah. So, I mean, the stuff we're talking about too is I was reading a labor writer, a reporter who's like, this is their beat, and the stuff the studios are asking is like they want to create a system to where instead of going to central casting and paying people over and over, they want to pay these people, these actors for one day of work. And they body scan them, and then they take their voice,
AI.
and then they can use that into perpetuity, which is absolutely, again, the most dystopian Westworld Black Mirror garbage I thought I would never even hear in my lifetime. But here we are. And this is from the same industry that tried to convince us as children, like, not to make copies of media that we purchased into perpetuity.
Yeah, the FBI
and
warning on everything.
Yeah, so I can't, I shouldn't download a movie because I wouldn't download a car, but y'all are trying to download human beings.
I mean,
and that's supposed to be okay. Like, no.
It's one of those kinds of situations where it tells you that no worker, even like fairly protected workers, which would be the higher level actors, not even they're safe from automation, right?
Yes.
And what the thing is, what the boss wants to do, what they always want to do, is they want to get the work that workers would normally produce, but not have to pay for it, and so that they can keep all that capital for themselves. From on the like idea, and I think it's different for acting, and I'll get to the reason for that in just a moment. But like the idea of automation isn't necessarily a bad one, or it doesn't have to be a bad one.
I saw a good meme the other day, and it was cheeky, but it was like it was 100% true. Like even Marx wrote about this in Capital, is that the idea that we have AI programs that are reading books and writing poetry and doing art while we toil at fake jobs is completely backwards.
Perverse, yeah.
Like it's not how it's supposed to be. Like the whole idea of AI, like not actual AI, that's a whole different ball of wax, but the idea of automation, I think, is a better word for it. The idea of automation is supposed to free us from toil. We're not supposed to toil so we can we can watch automation fulfill itself, and it's not even human.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. Well, so again, and the important question in both of these situations is that, again, you're replacing the human, getting the same work done. You're replacing the human gets nothing, and the capitalist gets everything. And so that's a problem. What needs to happen, if there's going to be a just sort of like automation of any economy, means that the wealthy are going to have to give up a lot more than they're currently doing. It's not a cost saving measure. It is a labor saving measure, and it's something that needs to work for everybody, not just a few wealthy. And again, this is not new. This has been happening ever since the steam engine or the printing press, right? Like this is not automation is not new. The thing is that right now it's been sort of on a very fast trajectory, to the point where it's been putting a lot of people out of jobs at sort of unprecedented rates. Now, again, the reason that it doesn't work for me when it comes to, and this is a question more of a personal taste than anything like that, is that, wow, you really want to take the human out of the humanities, out of the art? Like, come on, like that's ridiculous, right?
Oh, of course they do. Like, that's the thing. I mean, we've already kind of seen it, and I think about, since we're talking about streaming services, I think about how hyped I was for on Disney Plus, like the She-Hulk show.
Yeah.
And it looked like
absolute
No, it's absolute garbage.
That's a shame. I love She-Hulk. What a great character.
Yeah, she's such an interesting character. I love characters that aren't necessarily in those worlds, like that.
I started reading She-Hulk when Peter David was writing it, and it was incredible. It was awesome.
I like the idea that you've got a person who is an attorney, and then they've also got this. Let's just say what it is. It's a disability that they're not like Bruce Banner. They can't turn back. They're always green. They're always the Hulk.
She's big and strong and pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're navigating this world as the Hulk, and they have a job. They've got bills to pay. I like that kind of aesthetic. But my point is that show. I haven't watched. I know I just said it was terrible, but I haven't watched one episode of it because people say like it's terrible. But the reason why I didn't watch it is because it looks like absolute garbage. Because the CG, they use all the CG and they farm out for the cheapest bidder in like Taiwan or India or wherever they did, and they did the minimum amount of passes or renders for this, and it looks like actual garbage. So we know what this road looks like if we're gonna like. It's not like these companies are going to create some kind of a super AR license an AI that's going to be, write the next great American novel or the next
the
next movie that's going to win an award. They're going to do it on the cheap. They're going to do it the cheapest way possible, and that's going to bring us Transformers Part 300, and it's going to be absolute garbage. So it's like we don't want these technologies. We really don't want. We want them to assist with art. We don't want them to create art.
All right, here's
that makes any sense.
You just said two things, and now you said Transformers 300. Could you imagine if they had a Transformers movie, but it was exactly the same as 300? Could you imagine?
I mean, they kind of are. They're kind of these.
They're all like
big, loud, like
Spartan.
Even though like 300 was cool. Like 300's a cool movie, even though like the Spartans are the bad guys or whatever. But like for a comic book movie, it's one of the best comic book movies ever. But yeah, but it's just a big, loud garbage movie, and like nobody wants that. But
you can't remember what happened.
That's what they're going to bring us on the cheap. That's what quote unquote AI. I keep saying quote unquote AI because it's not actual artificial intelligence.
No,
but that's what machine learning is.
Michael Bay. Michael Bay is about as close to an AI as a human can become.
Absolutely.
The most interesting thing about Michael Bay movies, and this is actually why I think he's kind of fascinating, is that you can go watch an entire Michael Bay movie. You can leave the theater and not remember a single thing.
Anything.
That's
100%
unbelievable because it's just so much noise happening.
It's like a good example. I keep going back to Transformers with Michael Bay movies. It's so ridiculous to where like these two robots or however many robots are fighting each other, and it almost is like two action figures. It's
toys. It's somebody
colliding with each other, and I have no idea what's going on. It's just loud and noisy, and it has absolutely no soul. And that is the future of entertainment in any medium that you might enjoy. If we don't let the people who are actually the creatives take a larger stake in creating.
Yeah, it's a real shame. It really is a real shame because it's like a death of art sort of potential. I don't think it's possible. Like, I don't think because art has always been at its very core like something that's transgressive towards society, and in the capitalist culture that becomes commodified. So like there's always going to be art, but like whatever the prevailing art in the society is, it's going to be so terrible because it's going to be so not human. Like it's going to be disgusting. You know what I mean? Sorry to get like a little bit.
No, this is the doomer talk. This is what I was looking for.
That's Skynet, baby. Skynet's gonna be Skynet starting at the movie theaters.
I can't be doing all this. Like the world is, we're waking up to class consciousness.
Everything was going too well. We need to bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, it's like bringing it back to movies. It's like the Matrix. Like my brain won't accept it. Like it has to be going bad, or I'm just like, no, this can't be real. Like people are actually having class consciousness. Actors. Holy cow!
Let me bring it back and inject a little bit more hope in there if that'll ruin your day. But right. I will say this, that like, you know, in the work that I'm doing, there's nothing like seeing like workers who make, you know, no money, have no benefits, like going out and standing up for themselves. Like it's one of the most incredible things. Every time I go to a picket line, every time I go to a strike, every time I go to an action with these people who are essentially risking their entire livelihoods to do it, it's one of the most powerful things that you've ever seen in your entire life. You know what I mean?
No, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
And it must be pretty
It's
awesome
real.
as a job.
Well, when the Teamsters
Oh,
go on
shell.
strike, go on the picket line and talk with them.
Heck yeah, dude. Absolutely.
Local
I mean,
270. Shout out to 270.
we love a Teamster.
We do love a Teamster.
Absolutely, dude.
Well, anyway, anything else you want to say before we roll?
No, I gotta go pick up these drugs so I
just-
don't
yeah.
lose my mind.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening. This is Good Morning Comrade. You're listening to WHIV-LP New Orleans 102.3. You can listen to us every Saturday at 10 o'clock Central Time, or you can listen anywhere in the world at WHIVFM.org/listen. Get more information about our show at goodmorningcomrade.com. Follow Robert on Twitter at Comrade Morning. Follow me on Twitter at Eminent Prof. Did
I
miss
deleted
anything?
Twitter off my phone.
You don't have Twitter on your phone?
I deleted it because it's just awful. Like I'm just so sick of seeing like I'm
many
getting
blue
served
checks.
like racist reactionaries.
Yeah.
Like on my note, I'm like, no, I don't want this.
Well-
Never did. So got rid of it.
I've been on it long enough that that I just have to see it end, if you know what I mean. I want to
yeah, I
see
hear
it
you.
burning in the smoldering ashes of Twitter, because it's going to happen, actually. I was, for the longest time, one of these guys that was like, there's no way they can end this. This is no way they can bring it down. But, like, every time there's, like, a weird Twitter update or whatever where
Yeah.
it just breaks the entire app over and over again. And, like, Elon, like, essentially the idea is that, like, the only way to fix the app is to pay Elon $8.99 is like, well, I ain't doing that, one. And then
Forget that
two,
garbage.
and then it's not even a matter of money. It's a matter of like, I'm just not doing it. I could spend
Well-
$9 a million other different ways.
Exactly.
And then like the other thing is, I don't know. I do enjoy seeing it fall apart. It is funny
Oh, absolutely.
watching the aqueduct rot, while you're just standing there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, it rules. You're 100% right.
So anyway,
right.
thanks everybody for listening. This is WHIV-LP New Orleans 102.3. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.